What's up everyone, and welcome to today's episode where I'm going to be taking you through our top 8 tips as a first home buyer here in Australia. Buying a home in Australia can be very difficult. The cost of the property, the unknowns, the journey it takes. So our 8 tips are here to help you get to your first property and hopefully more over time. So let's start. Tip number 1, determine your budget. Now that might sound like a very broad brush approach because you don't know how much you can borrow, you don't know your savings, all this kind of stuff. But ideally, think about what your income and expenses are and how much a mortgage would impact that. Knowing that first before you go see advice, before you go and look at property, allows you to have a frame of reference on what to do next, or when advice comes from different people, how you can take that. So very simply, really know how much a mortgage repayment you can afford. Number two obviously is the most difficult in Australia. The deposit required to go and purchase property can be large, but there are plenty of options. There are guarantors, there are LMI loans, there's low doc loans, there are plenty of things you can do to get into the market earlier, but the safest way to start off is actually starting mentally to save towards a deposit. You might not need it because of all the items I mentioned, but getting into the habitual nature of saving will allow a lender to see you favorably, and then also allow you to really get used to putting money away towards a mortgage that could be a 30-year thing. Number 3, one of the things that we don't often talk about here is your credit score. In Australia, your credit score has an impact on if you can borrow or not. And with the constant changes in the online world and scams and frauds that occur, it's really important to be on top of your credit score. We'll pop a link down to bottom to Equifax, which is the website you can get your free credit score. And it's really good to monitor that and understand if there are any problems. Often, if you've had bank bills or been overseas or changed states or driver's license, your credit score could have issues that give you problems in the long run. So let's just make sure we're on top of that. Number 4 is getting your pre-approval sorted. Now, a pre-approval has a lot of tasks in between it, but it's really important before you go looking property to ensure you know how you actually can afford this and a bank has signed that off. Now, with a pre-approval, there's a number of ways you can do it. You can go to a mortgage broker like us, you can go direct to a bank, you can research yourself, and I think that's a great option. That's why a lot of things I like about Australia. It's important that you find the avenue that works for you, but getting a pre-approval provides security for the next phase. The next option, number 5, is all about research. Now, your pre-approval will ultimately land you at a bank, but it's important that you do your research across a number of different options. Variable loans, fixed loans, offset, not offset. Understanding the landscape of loans will allow you to be well prepared for when the property is found. You might change banks, you might change structures, you might change repayments. It's really critical to do your research. And that should fall into the pre-approval, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you might get a pre-approval from the bank that you're with because it's the quickest and the easiest, but research the market and see what's out there. Number 6, make sure you understand the costs of buying your property. Now again, step 4 of a pre-approval will really help you iron out your stamp duty costs, what you can borrow, all these kind of things. But there are a whole bunch of hidden costs that you might not know. Legal fees, land transfer fees, settlement fees, conveyancer fees, rates, water, utilities. These are unknowns that can be a surprise to you. Really speak to the people around you who are giving you advice around the costs that could be coming your way. Now, sometimes that can be minimal, $1,000, $2,000. Sometimes if you're buying a large property or an apartment that has body corporate, that could be upwards of $5,000 or $10,000. And that can put a huge spanner in the works. So be across the additional costs that you could see. Number 7, obviously, is a plug for businesses like us. And we're open about that. We love what we do, but we think seeking professional advice for what will most likely be your biggest financial purchase to date as a first-time buyer, and what might be your biggest asset in the long run, we believe getting professional advice is really important. The list is huge. You'll need a conveyancer solicitor for contract review. You need maybe a mortgage broker or a bank partner to get finance. You might need a building inspector. You might need a whole bunch of different things that come through the works. Getting professional people around is critical in our belief to getting this right. It's unfortunately not a decision you can unwind. In other asset classes like shares, I could buy BHP. Tomorrow, if I'm not happy, I can unwind that. Buying a house to unwind that can be costly. Get it right the first time. And the last one, This can be a stressful journey. Number 8 is to pay you back and congratulate you for wanting to improve your asset and your wealth or your lifestyle. It's an amazing thing. Take it slow and enjoy the journey. Enjoy the learning. Accept the ups and downs, because it will be sometimes traumatic to do this, but it's the greatest thing you can do. Building wealth for yourself or building a solid base in a home, I think, is one of the most fantastic things you can do, and we'd love to help. So reach out. Hopefully these 8 tips have given you a little bit of a broad brush on how we think you should approach it. Again, reach out to us or leave a comment or like. We'd love to help. Thanks again. Bye.